So. Shannon? Okay, I think we are live, and I think Councillor Shannon, you are in the room?
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect.
It's like Charlie, speaker.
Okay,
All
I
right.
believe we're live. I hope that I'm correct. It looks like, I think we're live streaming. It looks like we're live streaming. Okay, okay.
All right, so we're back from closed session and we're gonna go through the applications for the Business Revitalization Grant and Tourist Enhancement Grant, and decide on eligibility. So we've got the first grant. So the motion is to decide that the Economic Development Committee approve the award of $2,525.24 for a business grant application BGP 25-006. Subject to the applicant requiring any additional quotes, development permits, building permits, or the town of Peace River business license that may be required. And that is for the KIT business application for the Main Street sign revitalization. So who would like to make the motion for that grant?
I can make the motion for that grant.
All right, so Kay Tice has made that motion and all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moving on to the second, if we will, the Economic Development Committee approve the award of $2,500 to FSC Wellsite Supervision Inc. For the Business Development Grant number BGP 25-007 to the applicant acquiring any additional quote, development permit, building permit, or town of Peace River business license that may be required. And that is for the sidewalk repair, especially to enhance safety. Who would like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion granted. All right. Next, we move on that the Economic Development Committee approve the award of $9,856.58 to Clayton Canning. And he's looking for new business signage, security shutter for the building on Main Street. And that's a business grant application number BGP 25-008. And again, subject to the applicant acquiring any additional quote, development permit, building permit, or town of Peace River business license that may be required. Who would like to make that motion?
Make that motion.
Make Benji? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Next, we go that the Economic Development Committee approve the award of $3,512.50 to Peace River Adventures. And this is for the tourism grant, BGP 25-010, subject to the applicant acquiring any additional quote, development permit, building permit, or town of Peace River business license that may be required. Who would like to make that motion?
I can make that motion.
All right, Kay made the motion and all in favor?
All in favor.
Okay. Moving on through, people. All right, next, that the Economic Development Committee approved the award of $7,075 to Rashid Handus and Sons Limited for business development grant number BGP 25-011, subject to the applicant requiring any additional quote, development permit, building permit, or town of Peace River business license that may be required.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Noah, for the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. For the next one, Kay will step out. And last but not least, we're looking that the Economic Development Committee approve the award of $5,184.49 to Peace River Adventures for BGP 25-009, which is revitalization of the Lions Campground. And subject to the applicant acquiring any of the quotes, development permit, building permits, or town of Peace River business license that may be required. Who would like to make that motion?
I can make that motion, Carmen.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Shannon. All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. So I believe we're closed, and then that leaves us some funds over for intake 3 for the business grants.
That's correct.
All right. Let's move that on. All right, so going back to the agenda, we've got the adoption of minutes from the April 2020. Oh, sorry. Missed my closed session. So on to unfinished business. Proposed non-residential property tax incentive bylaw with the new non-residential property tax incentive bylaw. So Alicia, you'll be speaking to that?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we have been doing some work in-house to figure out what this might look like. And we have some attached scenarios for the EDC to consider. They give a sense of, if we go forward with this, what does that actually mean from a monetary perspective for the businesses? So a couple of things to highlight before we get to the fun math. So we have been talking about some key elements related to the proposed bylaw. One of the key things for us to determine is what our eligibility threshold is going to be and how we determine it. So there are kind of two practices out in the municipal world. One is to do an increase in assessed value. So that means that you need to have the municipal assessor needs to have multiple years worth of assessment, and there needs to be a minimum threshold of an assessment increase in order to be eligible for the program. The other option is to do it based on capital costs. Now, there are pros and cons to both. For an increased and assessed value, that is more easily administered by the municipality. We do assessments already as a matter of practice. And by establishing a minimum threshold here, we're ensuring that the development and the resulting incentive are a material amount. If we do an eligible, and it's in a material amount because the actual incentive ultimately is also based on the assessed value. So you could have significant number of capital costs, but if that doesn't actually move your assessed value, then the actual incentive that you end up with at the end of the day isn't necessarily going to be as material. The other option is to do eligible capital expenditure. So it would be, okay, if this project, you have to spend $150,000, but those costs, that puts an additional administrative burden on both administration, but also on the applicant, because you have to demonstrate that you have spent those capital costs on that project. So there's additional information that needs to be submitted. So as of right now, administration is moving, our heads are at the preferred option of an assessed value threshold. But certainly if the EDC has some feedback on that, we would be happy to receive comments on that particular item. But it does mean that applicants would be required to submit detailed cost breakdowns with third-party validation in order to ensure that we are appropriately ensuring that the project is actually eligible. So that does pose challenges on both ends, I think. That's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing that we've been talking about is what should that minimum threshold be? So at the moment, we are mentally, admin is talking in terms of an increase in assessed value. So tentatively, we've been talking around $150,000 as the minimum threshold to be able to participate in the program. So your increase in assessed value has to be that amount extra at minimum, or otherwise the project is not eligible for the tax incentive. Then we've also been talking about application fees. So we just would love to have some feedback from the EDC on what seems like a reasonable amount to help us capture some of the administrative costs that comes along with it without it being too onerous, especially given what it would look like. So one of the examples that we have in there is that minimum threshold. So if you're just beating the minimum threshold, this is what that means from a return to the business at the other end. And I think we need to think about what the application fee would be in that context of if someone was just at the minimum. And then the return and the incentive structure. So as of right now, we have been talking in terms of a 3-year incentive structure where in the first year it's 100% exemption, then 75, then 50. I will highlight that this is of the municipal taxes, so there's a North Peace Housing requisition, there's an Alberta Education requisition that is associated with municipal taxes, but isn't actually tax coming from the municipality. Those are not things that we have the authority to exempt, and so that's not what we're talking about here. And then we have also talked about what and should there be a maximum exemption, so, or sorry, maximum incentive. So yes, we want to incentivize people, but the longer or the more that we incentivize, the longer we are saying that portion of the increase is not coming into the public purse, and also thereby reducing the tax burden to the properties that are already paying into the system. So is it appropriate to have a maximum, and what is that threshold? So those are some of the ideas that we're talking about. And then if you flip through the scenarios that we've provided, and I will say that, so there's three of them, one of them is just based on the minimum thresholds, just to get it into our minds, what does that mean? If you're just making the cut for this program. The others are all examples of things that have happened or are happening in the town. I believe we've scrubbed them, so there's no, you can't tell who's what, but these are not numbers that are pulled out of thin air, they're pulled out of real scenarios that have happened in Peace River. So the first one is a commercial renovation scenario, where we've had a commercial renovation in the past, or if you look at the building permit values that we received, the permits added up to about $2 million worth of renos. Ultimately, their increase in assessment was about $950,000. So if we were to apply those numbers to the commercial tax base over the last 3 years, and then the tax scenario that we've got of the 3 years, that would mean that they were eligible for 18,000 in the first year, 14 in the next, and then 10 in the last, for a total of about 43,000 total exemption. So that's what this program would mean from a bottom line for the business perspective. The second scenario is, we call it the large scale development scenario, where we've got some brand new stuff coming online. So here we've got capital costs that are in the order of $1 million. Our estimate in the increase in assessment is 1.7. And that would turn into 77,000 in total tax exemption for that property. The third is a smaller scenario. So here we're doing a small addition to a property where we're estimating capital costs at about 350,000, likely to translate into an increase in assessment of a little under 200,000. And so that looks like a little over $9,000 over the 3 years in terms of a tax incentive. And then the last page is just the numbers that would be associated with the minimum threshold. So if you are in a change in assessed value of 150,000, then you're looking at slightly under $7,000 in incentive over 3 years, based on 175.50. So questions, comments, thoughts?
I'm just curious where we got like the minimum threshold of 150 in the minimum.
So I mean, partly we wanted the minimum to result also in a material amount that we're refunding. So if we put the number too low, then and that's a lot of effort, both application wise for the business and for us. There's agreements to sign, there's a lot of process to go into what would be a couple $1,000s if we put it too low,
Right.
Ultimately. So that's a part of it. Also part of the thought was we do have the business grant program. If you do max out that program, the business is essentially funding around $100,000 in terms of improvements. So for a lot of businesses that would be doing a renovation or spending in that order, there might be another program that would be available to them for some funding that could ultimately be fairly equivalent in terms of funding. So that's another rationale for around that number.
And then you were talking about a maximum before. I'm just curious, the rationale behind that. So for myself, I'm looking at it like, if somebody wants to come and spend that much money on an investment, could we have a, like, maybe a maximum underneath here, and then anything above, like, that threshold would be drawn over 5 years to kind of like ease the, I don't know if it would really ease the burden on the town, but it would be like, and would this apply to new builds? So if I had land like assessed at whatever, and then I spend $5 million on a new building, my taxes are locked in on the land assessed value? Would that be what it would start at?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so then that new building comes in and that increase that new building represents would be
Okay.
100%, then 75, then 50. Yeah. I guess the part of the philosophy is, I mean, to what extent does if someone is coming in to do that big an investment, is this actually moving the needle on that? Or are we truly, I mean, if you're going to spend 10 million, and at what point do we want the tax base as a whole to be funding that? We are giving an incentive, for sure, and I mean, right now, the max threshold that we're talking about is 6 figures, it's 250,000, that's not nothing.
Yeah.
But at what point is it enough? And then the tax base really wants that money to come into the public purse, because that way, potentially, the rate that everybody else has to pay is also going down. That is affecting how long it takes for that money to come
Yeah.
into our municipal budget every year.
So for a maximum, you guys are like suggesting a max of like $250,000 maximum on the tax break, essentially, is what the recommendation is.
So if the development was so big that we reached that maximum in the first year, then that you would receive an incentive in the first year, and then
Mhm.
it would be done. But you would have received that amount of incentive.
Any other questions? And we can also take this out for some discussion with members of the community and get you some feedback.
This is public, this is on the publicly published agenda, so feel free to.
And it's really good to see this being done, because I think it's probably been brought up since the start of our committee.
Yeah.
So it's really good to see that you guys are working on this and moving forward and help our town to be competitive. So,
Yeah.
no, great work. Hey, we will get you some feedback on that.
I guess in terms of it being competitive, was this compared to another town's program, or how did we source coming up with these amounts and timeframes?
Typically, the majority and there are examples, and we have looked at some of them. I would say that the majority of the examples are either operating on a 3-year or a 5-year. And it really depends on the community. Some are starting at 100, some are starting at 75. I think that from our perspective, we were leaning towards 3 years, because the longer the program, the longer you have to administer it. So rather, if we're gonna do it, we'd rather go big but short than drag it out over many years.
Yeah, my math brain would agree with that, right? If we're gonna give the same total incentive and we can give a portion of that earlier, the time value of money says that's a fantastic thing to do, I think, for everybody involved.
Yeah, but definitely, typically, it's either 3 or 5 years. 100, 75, 50 is not abnormal. I do think we have a neighbor who has a similar type of program that does 75, 50, 25. So the details are all a little bit different, but I think for us, the main question is, do these numbers make sense? Are they moving the needle enough for us? We do want something that moves the needle, but we also want to balance it with not going too far and recognizing that this is delaying when this property comes online to contribute to the overall tax base, and that impacts everybody else who's already in the pool.
Is there a way we can see a comparison to what our neighbors are doing? Because I think one of the big incentives would be, if you're competing with them, you might be able to attract somebody who maybe you would be building in a different community or doing an improvement there.
Yeah, I mean, we can, Did we even do that? Actually, yay us. If you look at the first example. And you look at. So we just scenario 2 is 75, 50, 25. Over 3 years, but you can see the difference and what that makes. So it's about 15,000. Close to. Difference, so. That's,
Substantial.
it is substantial, yeah. And I think we did that on all of them, so. You get a sense of what that looks like.
And that's most of our neighbors are kind of in that area.
No, I believe one neighbor is in that area, and I don't know that our other neighbors have. This type of incentive program. There definitely are other municipalities in Alberta that have this incentive program. But not to my knowledge, other neighbors, except for one other rural municipality.
Okay, so we would be the lowest if we adopted this, or have the most incentive compared to the community.
It
around
would
us.
be the most aggressive, presuming the other details of their program are the same. I'm not 100% sure, that every detail is the same, so are they just doing it on the increase in assessed value? I know that that is the norm in the province, but I wouldn't want to bet too much on that being 100% true for our neighbor.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When are we hoping this would kind of come to fruition to?
Right now, we're getting pushed hard to keep this moving forward. I think the hope is to be able to present the bylaw to this council before the election. With the intent that it would come into effect in 2026. So we would give ourselves the fall to make sure that all of our processes in order to receive applications and respond to them are in place. But the goal right now, what we're aiming for, but we'll see, there are lots of things on the go. But that's what we're hoping for. Yeah.
Competitive with the neighbors and away, so. Okay,
And I know we are also looking, for if there's some development that's already in the works, ways to make a certain cutoff that it post there, is it post date, predate?
Retroactive.
Thank you, that's a good word. From a certain cutoff, so that things that have happened in the recent past are excluded from this program.
good, and that's nice and fair, especially with one of the developments going on, so that's good to look at that, so, no. Excellent, good.
What do other municipalities or towns charge for the application fee?
That's a great question, I don't have answers to.
Okay,
We will have to look into that.
I think it'd be a great place to start for the recommendation on that one. Maybe we can be competitive or a little bit better than the neighbors or other people who are doing the program. I think that's fantastic.
Any further questions, comments, anything? Okay, so if we're good to move on, then we'll definitely look at that, talk to some people. Now we've got the business grant policy and application review, and I'm sure you're speaking to that as well.
Sorry, this was just a quick update, because we did take a quick update to council on the business grant program. There is one provision within the program that restricted us to considering applications for the business enhancement grant to civic addresses, but we do have a lot of properties in town where there's multiple units within one civic address. And we didn't really have a way of distinguishing that within the policy, so council did allow us to do a policy update to that policy that we did consider the applications for already, that allowed different units within the same civic address to make an application and not be restricted to that 5 years. So that allowed us to consider one of the applications that we received today. And that was a quick change to the policy. We do intend on, we have been working on and will continue to work on updates to the policy that would come to the EDC for review in September at our next meeting, and then go into effect for the 2026 year.
And that was a good change to add as well, so yeah, good on that. All right, so we've got the destination development assessment update and Kareem.
So, the destination development assessment that we have been talking about, for a couple of months now, which was part of the Northern Regional Economic Development Program, funding that we received, earlier this year, where we'll be doing, the retail gap analysis, and also part of that will be the destination development, assessment that is going to be conducted by Roger Brooks and his team. We will be able to get the results of that findings in a community engagement workshop that is slated to be had on July 8th at the Peace Valley Inns, and it will take place from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Details as to RSVP will be sent out to all the business owners, and also will be marketing that extensively. So we, of course, hope that EDC members will also get that out to the different business owners and interested community persons as well, because it will give an idea as to how we're viewed from the eyes of the external, from an external party. And details of that will be provided to us in a report as well. So after the engagement, we will get a written report that we can then take back to the EDC and make public as well. Great. And dinner will be provided.
Great. We'll get back to you on that, and are they currently going around town doing some assessment as we speak, or when does this begin?
So we want to use the word secret shopping.
Yeah.
So it's best if the dates of the secret shopping is not revealed for it's so that we get true representation, right? So that part is a secret, but the assessment, the findings will be made public.
More than first, we will be on our good behavior for this moment on.
Exactly.
So remember that, Benji. Alrighty. Okay, next, the EDC bylaw and terms of reference. And back to you, Alicia.
Yeah, this is really quick. Just wanted to let the EDC know that we did finalize the updated bylaw in terms of reference, took that to council, based on a recommendation, I believe here, we did make, I can't remember if it's a councilor here, but we did make one change to the terms of reference, which is highlighted in this briefing note, but other than that, both the bylaw and the terms of reference were accepted or approved with no changes. And both updated documents can be found on the website, on the EDC page, but also another location. So if you want to refer to them, they are there, and it's official and done.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, then on to new business now. We've got the draft economic development work plan for 2025. So Alicia, you are speaking to that as well.
Yes, so the bylaw that I just referred to, it does direct that the committee will advise on an annual economic development work plan. So that means we need to bring an annual economic development work plan to the committee for your input. So we have started working on that. This is still a work in progress. This is us, now that Corinne is here, kind of shifting exactly how it's represented, but we have started to build one. It is built on, from the beginning, council's strategic direction that is within the council strategic plan. And then we have retained those committee priorities that were highlighted in the strategic work plans that we had previously had with the EDC. And then we've highlighted some of the strategic projects and the established programs that we have, the administrative processes that are all geared towards the economic development work plan for the town. And this is, as I said, a draft. So step one, this is a list. We'd like to get more specific in terms of timelines and things along those lines as we move forward. But this is draft one that we bring forward to the committee for feedback. So I don't think there'll be anything in here that drastically surprises anybody in terms of content, but in terms of the operational plan, we do have the strategic projects that our BRS is leading. So we've got the tax incentive bylaw, the retail and services gap analysis project that is coming up. The destination development assessment that we just spoke about, so she's coordinating, obviously not doing the assessment, but coordinating the workshop and all of the things related to that project. We do have our existing investment attraction strategy, and we do have a line here, investment attraction implementation, because we don't want to forget about that project. It did provide some value. The next time we bring forward a draft, we'd like to be more specific about which implementation strategies we are focusing on, but we have just been having those internal conversations without getting down to the specifics yet. And then it has been on the list, and we don't want to lose it, to develop a map of the town of Peace River business and industrial areas. So that is still on the list of things to work on, but we haven't achieved that yet, so we're not forgetting about it. We've included it. And then in terms of some of the other projects that ECDEV is involved in, we've got a regional Invest Alberta project. So our regional EDOs, including Kareen, are working with Nicole Nellis to talk to Invest Alberta, and we're trying to coordinate a tour of our region with Invest Alberta to get us more on their radar and for them to give us feedback about what we need to do to become more investment ready as a region. So that's a project that's ongoing regionally, and Kareen is involved with that on a regular basis. There is the Enabling Housing Choice North project with the Rural Development Network that we've mentioned already. The YOLO Nomad partnership with Northern Sunrise County is ongoing. And then we do want to speak to or identify Prance Around the Peace. Last time we spoke about it, I think there was still a desire to do something this year, maybe not in December, so I don't know if we're prancing around the piece, but something like that. So that would be, if the EDC still wants to pursue that, then that's something that Kareen would be supporting, and that you guys would be engaging in as well. And then we are still maintaining our existing programs, so Rural Renewal Stream, Rural Entrepreneur Stream, the business grant program. And then in terms of just the day-to-day admin, that does take up some time. We've got maintaining our business directory, maintaining the ECDEV content on our webpage, and the new business welcome letters, which you guys are familiar with. And we did have a bit of a lag this year, kind of a disconnect with staff turnover and everything, but Kareen has officially gotten the list and is now on to the, I think, quarterly cycle in terms of sending those out. And then obviously also engaging with the chamber, with PREDA, Mighty Peace Tourism, Community Futures, and our regional economic development officers, and building those relationships so that we are more present at those tables on a more regular basis.
Very important. That sounds good. And did you guys have a closing date for the RPF for the retail gap analysis?
It has closed.
Oh,
It closed last week Thursday, so we are scheduled to review proposals next week. And then we'll be looking to award before July.
forward to hearing on that. Great. Alrighty, so next on to the update for the EDC Facebook and Kareen. Just looking for it.
Yes, so we've made a recommendation, or we've decided to change the EDC Facebook page. We currently have 500 followers, and I think we would get better use of our space if we incorporate with the Town of Peace River page, which has approximately 9,500 followers, and it would lessen burden to ensure that there's content, relevant content that's always available for the EDC page, because as it is now, it's a dying page with less than 1,000 followers, and we are not updating regularly for it to be a sustainable social media method of communicating what the EDC is doing. So it's our intention to incorporate whatever economic development activities that's happening into the town's Facebook profile, which I think would give us better views, better engagement from the community, as we've been discussing. So that is
I have some questions on that.
Sure.
Why is it hard to keep up content? I don't understand. Is it hard to keep up content on our page that so bad that we have to join the Peace River page? I'm not quite certain on that. Where is the gap there?
So, in terms of the content that is currently going on the Economic Development, Committee page, we have less than one post per month. And whether or not, we increase the number of posts, it wouldn't necessarily mean an increase in number of engagement or number of followers. So to exert energy in putting up 2 posts or 3 posts a week on the page to engage 500 users, I think it better suits our effort to increase. It doesn't, so closing the page doesn't mean decrease in engagement. It's actually going to be an increase on my side to ensure that there's more content on the Town of Peace River's page as it relates to economic development. So it's not a disservice to the committee for closing. It's actually going to encourage you to for us to be more proactive in ensuring that the town sees that there is economic development activities happening in the town.
So how would that affect then? So are we going to be diluted if we're going to be posting in the town stream, we're going to be diluted then?
I'm not sure if it's gonna be diluted, Councilor Shannon, as the amount of followers that we have on the town page, as I mentioned, is 9,500 compared to the Economic Development Committee page, which is 500 followers. We have less than
Whose
2 likes.
responsibility is that to grow that page then?
Hey, Shelley. I think I kind of agree with Karina a little bit, just in the aspect of like, if you're looking from the general public, we know about the Economic Development Committee. But the general public may not, it might be a little bit confusing because you're looking to the, like, if I was looking for economic development information, I wouldn't necessarily be searching out a specific committee. I'd be searching out the Town of Peace River. I just think that our content needs to be relevant to break through with what the town is doing. Because if we only have 500 followers, you would need a lot of content and a lot of information to move that needle. And I don't feel that we have enough content to do it. Whereas if we had creative content on a larger platform, we may be able to actually get some attention onto what we're doing.
I agree, but how do we stand out then when we are sharing a platform with multiple posts by the Town of Peace River? How does the Economic Development Committee stand out, and how do we remain relevant in that realm?
So the Town of Peace River page, like how social media works, it's based on engagement. It's based on persons liking, sharing, right? So for you to stand out is making sure that there's engagement on the post, and we're not going to be hidden in terms of like the economic development posts are not hidden, or it's not going to be what's the word I'm looking for? It's not going to be not as visible as the other posts. So the town is doing maybe a post a day. If the economic development is doing 2 posts a week, if anything, we should be saying, let's get more posts into the Town of Peace River as it relates to economic development. But the idea, I'm not sure if we're understanding what it means to have that higher visibility with more followers, more engagement by being on the town. Because I think you're looking at it from a point of the economic development not having the voice, and I'm saying I want to give the Economic Development Committee a lot of platform, or a better platform to have a better reach.
Well, that's
So
awesome.
if you look from that, yeah, if you look at it from that way, I think you'll appreciate being incorporated into what the town is doing a little bit more.
As long as we can keep our identity, I have no problem with that.
For sure.
And I think one other thing we can keep in mind is if there are high value posts or projects that we really do want to make sure kind of break through the social media stream, those are also always ones that we can also boost and pay a little bit of money so that they are more prominent across people's feeds when they are seeing them.
And there is another option there. I know that our uh, the administration has set up that thing about the, invite the mayor and council and whatnot, but we need to be more partnership oriented, like with the chamber and with the town, like all three of us together going to these community events and stuff. And I think that we need to do more work on community engagement and how we can be with all these announcements and stuff that came in. The Economic Development Committee should have been at that announcement for the campground. I'm sorry. That should have been a photo op with the Economic Development Committee. It should have been a photo op with the Chamber of Commerce and with the town of Peace River. There was a lost opportunity there.
If I can pop in, I'll say, months and months ago where I used to be sending out communications looking for the ECDev page.
Mhm.
And many times it was crickets because we did struggle for posts. So I definitely do agree where you've got so many more followers on the town page. And like Councillor Shannon says, yes, we still want to stand out with the committee, but you've definitely got more followers. And also, as Councillor Shannon said, if we want the ECDev to be recognized more, then great to be seen out in the community. And with the campsite portion, I will say, yeah, that would have been great to have more people there, because to me, it just shows the support that it's like, hey, the town, the chamber, the ECDev, everybody's rallying behind it. Everybody is excited to see it in our town. And I know sometimes I'll see things, I'll say the green building, like the mental health building, it was just Thursday that they had an open house there. And I know I didn't see it until I saw some posts about it on Dan Williams' page. But it would be nice whether if we're aware of it, whether it's administration or us as a group, even sending out a group email that, hey, just making sure you guys are aware of this. If you can show up and support it, great. Because I think the more the merrier. It looks good, but some of it you're not aware of, we're not aware of. So if we can try to
Exactly.
keep each other abreast, and then it does look good to have all those faces rallying behind it. So.
And I have talked to C.L. Miller about this, that we need to have more of a cohesive presentation to the community when these things happen. We need to be together. It can't be just the mayor. It can't be just the Chamber of Commerce. It's got to be all of us together. And if we're going to have that on our website where people can invite the mayor and council to different openings, I think it needs to be like the chamber and the Economic Development Committee have to have a higher profile in there to let the community know that we are doing things. And I do not see that being that one need being met. And I'm curious to see what others think about how we could meet that.
I just agree. Kind of an analogy, I work for a pretty large organization, of course, and there's all of these different departments, and sometimes a client will ask for this or that, and oh, you need to talk to this department or that person. Well, they don't know, it's all ATV. And I think it's kind of the same story here. It's EDC, it's the town, it's the chamber, it's all Peace River. And I think that approach would be fantastic.
I just do have a question in regards to the social media thing. You're right, there was lots of crickets, there's not a ton of, but every once in a while, there was some ideas that we did spout out, like, will we still get input on posting or anything like that?
We welcome your feedback for sure.
Okay.
Please.
So we'll just send it to you, Corinne, and then
Yes.
go from there.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, great. Yeah. Any other further comments on that? Councillor Shannon, good?
No, we're all good.
Okay, no, awesome, okay, perfect, then let's move on. And we're on to the Business Retention Specialist Quarterly Report, Corinne.
Yes, so we have ended my quarter, not the fiscal quarter. So some of the highlights was the introductory meeting that I conducted with the EDC members, you guys, and also the local Chamber of Commerce. I also attended the annual Economic Development of Alberta conference, which we're now officially members of. We will discuss that in our future meetings, the type of perks that the town of Peace River can enjoy as EDA members. Also attended the Northern Sky Tourism Corridor meeting in Grand Prairie, and one highlight of that is this is being done by Destination Canada. So it's a federal program, but they're looking at the different areas in Alberta, and they have sectioned off the northern part. So one of the concerns we have had is that the northern is not really seen in the tourism light. So there are plans in place to change that, and that workshop was conducted with different parties of the northern region and interested business owners as well. So not just the municipal, but we also had the private sector being a part of that conversation. Also attended Indigenous tourism workshop as well, that was held locally, and just other meetings. Also we started the retail and services gap analysis that we discussed earlier, and the destination development assessment projects. We also partnered with Northern Sunrise to launch that YOLO Nomads Hub. We should be getting some feedback, I'm hoping in a couple of weeks as to when our first feedback session from the YOLO Nomads team as to what that type of engagement looks like in numbers. So we should be getting some more information on that. Also, as we mentioned earlier, collaborated with the Rural Development Network to conduct the Enabling House Choice North project, and the Rural Renewal and Rural Entrepreneurial Stream programs that are currently in my portfolio has been fully transitioned with the previous coordinator now out of that position. And we also did that presentation to the Peace River and District Chamber of Commerce on their June general membership meeting. So those are some of the highlights that I wanted to share with the EDC.
Good to see they're doing a little bit of an extra focus on the north as well. So, yes, any comments, questions?
The YOLO Nomads Hub, is that the digital nomads attraction strategy thing that we were talking about before?
Strategy, but yes, it is digital.
It's like advertising essentially to try and get people to
Yes.
visit more.
It is, yeah.
Right. Looking forward to hearing about that one.
I think we should be able to bring back more information in
Mhm.
September.
Yes.
Awesome.
Good. All right, so next we have the rural renewal report for May of 2025.
So for number of applications that we've approved, this is not just for the month of May, it's like a running total. So we're gonna be changing the structure of this report as well, just by way of information. So we have a total of 106 applications, and 100 of those were approved. In terms of number of total employers in the program as we speak, it's 47. Number of positions requested, 232, and number of endorsement letters provided, 178. Just to point out that difference, it means that there's still positions that needs to be filled. So there's opportunities for employees to still partake in that program because there is a visible gap. In terms of persons in their positions, this is yet to be verified. This is done through the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, so we'll verify that number possibly in our next meeting. As it stands now, the number of persons in their position is 157. After 6 months, after a year, it drops to 150, and after 18 months, it remains at 150. And then we have some notes as to where the loss occurred in terms of employees.
Interesting statistics with the programs. Any questions? All right, next we've got attached the April 2025 and the May 2025 monthly development reports. Had a look at those.
Yeah, I can take any questions that the committee has, but just in general, in terms of big stuff, we've really still been working with the West Hill Development. It is approved, but that doesn't mean that the work is done. We're still coordinating with them on updated civil and landscaping plans and entering into agreements and subdivision applications. There's lots going on there right now, as they do also move forward on the site. We have also approved a couple of single detached dwellings, which is very exciting, and we are waiting or working through building permit applications for both of those. Unsurprisingly, we've also had some demolition permits related to fires, but at least people are moving forward in terms of taking down structures that are that have had damage. And there has been a little bit of permit enforcement as well, where we have noticed some development that's been ongoing that has not pulled permits, so we've had to do some education and follow up with some of those. And we did also issue a letter of compliance, so it's a little bit of a different process for telecommunication towers because it's a federal approval, but they do ask for the municipality to provide compliance. So we did have an application for a telecommunication tower that is on town land. It's northwest of the Kenholam Ball Diamonds, kind of in a little corner of land that doesn't have anything else going on. And so there potentially will be a new telecommunications tower going on in our town, but that is subject to federal approval. So I think they're at the federal approval stage at this point. So I can take any questions you guys have, but otherwise this is just an FYI.
Just out of curiosity, is it too soon for a development notice for cleanup at the gas station that was burned down on Main Street? Not sure where that sits for being investigated and such.
I am not 100% sure. From a cleanup order perspective, I think we're probably still working through the insurance process right now, so it might be a little bit premature to be expecting them to be working on that part of it. Yeah, but unfortunately, I don't know if people were aware, but there was a development permit that was issued for that site for redevelopment of it. So we are hoping that that's not dead, but it might look different. So it probably won't happen as quickly as it might have otherwise if the fire hadn't occurred, but hopefully that property owner is still looking to move forward. It will just be. It might be it will be a different permit process because now that it's been fully demolished, those existing permits aren't valid anymore, and that's just the reality of the Municipal Government Act. But that being said, I think the property owner may also be investigating slightly different approaches. So hopefully in the future, that site looks substantially different than it does today.
That's very good.
Yeah.
And a rebuild would be good and freshen up Main Street, so
Absolutely.
yes. All right. So now we're on to reports. So downtown revitalization. That's typically you and I. Do you have anything to say before our chat?
No, I don't.
Okay. One thing I will say, it's not to do with revitalization. And then I would ask Benji for his input from a downtown business perspective. But I will say comments from many, many business owners and residents that I'm sure it's the difference of having the peace officers, because I know talking to Officer White, he said he's doing some nights, and then, we've got Daniel and Michael during the day, the RCMP, but the difference of not having the shelter and then the corrections people. I was told, if it's correct, that they are being taken now to Grand Prairie because that's an air shelter. It has been night and day in the downtown. Shocking what an immediate difference it was from, noticing groups of people, or always kind of have to be watching the front, if we're escorting people out, et cetera, et cetera. It's just been amazing what an immediate turnaround that was. So I've had that comment from many people of going, not the daily theft, not the daily nuisance issues, et cetera, et cetera. And what about Peace Valley Inns?
Yeah, I can say the same from my experience there. Traditionally in the morning, it was a wave of people that would come from the shelter, and they'd be checking vehicles, checking door handles, looking in boxes and trucks, being menaces. It's honestly been super calm, and I haven't had to, we had no vandalism, no breakage of property, no been a lot less people to deal with. I've dealt with one individual. I had to drive him to Baytex because he thought that he would qualify for evacuation money, but he was not from a community that got evacuated. So other than that one individual, it's been absolutely fantastic.
CJ. And that's the same for us. We had one evacuee in there on Thursday, chatty young fellow. You know, I let him know where to go for resources and everything, and just, you know, he went to the thrift store, got some new clothes, was very, very happy. But it's been, there is a downtown crime Facebook page. Other than one misunderstanding with an individual, unless I missed something, there's been absolutely no posts on that for a month about crime or anything, and it was pretty much a daily process. So, not for discussion here today, but I'll say there is definite apprehension in the community about with the shelter having its winter funding, because then businesses are concerned again, because granted the nuisance, but also the out of pocket, which I'm sure Peace Valleyans was probably the highest with theft and damages, you know, of what we've all been putting into security and theft, etc. So there's apprehension of the shelter opening up again, because then if the inmates get dropped off. So I know that's a discussion for another day, but like I said, between those and with the peace officers and the RCMP, it has been wonderful. So thank you from the business community and the residents for sure. It's been wonderful. Alrighty, so that's all I've got. And then I guess, well, we've got River Days coming up, I should say, next weekend. So hopefully we get all the rain out of the way this weekend. And Noah and I were gonna try to go to Man's Landing Friday morning and help out. And I'm sure Benji's doing something with River Days as always. So yes, so that'll be great to have in the downtown as well. All right, after this, we have got the facilitate entrepreneurship opportunities. That usually, pardon me?
That's usually Lane.
Lane, okay, Lane is absent today. Enhancing tourism.
So this one makes, Rotaract makes this one, really easy because they tend to do a ton of things in the community that really help promote tourism, as well as the Jet Boat Association. Unfortunately, the powwow was postponed because of the evacuees in town, so they're looking at date in July. But other than that, Karina and I will be working, we decided together to do that, so I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome that we're gonna support River Days.
Yes,
I think that was
absolutely.
a real civic pride thing that Peace River needed. And it fulfilled a big gap there that we didn't have after Peace Fest left. And I think that Rotaract should be really recognized for that. And I don't think we really appreciate, the town of Peace River gets the majority of the credit for that, which is not true. It's Rotaract doing it, not the town of Peace River. And I do believe that we should make sure that we really draw those lines and give them the credit and not assume that it's the town of Peace River doing the event.
Maybe if it's possible, because I know the town of Peace River, Sunrise County, I believe, sponsor part of the event, but maybe we could even do a shout out on that, because I do agree, we know they have some mature people on Rotaract, but it's great to see so much of the young community out. And now that Shelley mentions that too, even seeing where they painted the concrete at the post office, such a difference, where something was a bit of an eyesore, these guys took maybe a Saturday, Sunday afternoon, that little difference and pride in our community, and that's what we all need to work towards bringing back. So maybe Stuart could do a little shout out for Rotaract and what they do and bring to town. Give a good pat on the back.
I believe that would be a very good thing for the town of Peace River to do. That would be really appropriate.
Bring it up.
Yeah, good. I think we all agree with you on that for sure. They're a wonderful group. We're lucky to have them, so. Okay. Change the narrative, which is Lane, and he's not here, so. And
I
think
can
we're all
speak to
working
that a
on
bit. I would just like to say things like recognizing the Rotaract, recognizing different community organizations and their input into the economy. I think of Benji and his his sports tourism. We have a lot of potential here, and I think just recognizing that in the town of Peace River, and Stuart could really help here, would be a far, a really good choice, because then it would elevate that that what we are trying to do. But I think that we should be trying to spread that word a little bit more.
You're absolutely right on that. And first of all, Stuart is really, really good with communications, but Benji has often been talking about, yes, you know, when sports are in town, what it does for the economy. So which brings back when minor ball, and this was maybe a month ago, I believe it was around 1,000 people in town because of the minor ball tournament. So I always come downtown around 10 o'clock Saturday morning and I'm like, what are all these vehicles in the traffic circle? You know, you're trying to leave and it's busy and you go everywhere. And then Benny and I go to the farmer's market and it's like, oh yeah, it's all the ball kids in town. And it's wonderful to see the diamonds. And then even up at the farmer's market, there's all these parents with their kids from out of town. And then, you know, they're frequenting the restaurants and the different places. So that's just to show the extra things that we have in town, whether it's sports, river days, whatever events we have, definitely is a trickle down effect to the economy. And so, yeah, so.
Yeah, I think we spoke to this before, but it would be amazing if organizations could spread that word through the town Facebook page, maybe, you know, like for us, I've always tried to phone every organization and kind of create our own like community calendar, because honestly, the difference it makes in business when you have tournaments in town is just insane. So I would be amazing if we could funnel all these things, because they would obviously have to rent the diamonds from the town. So if we could just translate that into welcome U15, whatever minor ball tournament, welcome U18 provincial hockey tournament, but post it like ideally it would be like a week out, like looking forward to next weekend. So like whatever team coming to town, and then a post on the weekend that's happening, because as a business owner, I mean, I can't remember, I think it was a U18 or U15 hockey tournament. And there was lineup, that's when AW was downtown, there was lineups out the door at AW, there was lineups out the door at Java Domain, there was lineups out the door almost in every downtown business. But sometimes you get caught off guard because you don't know these teams are coming to town, and then it's a little overwhelming. So it would be nice to have like a post a week out and then also on the weekend just to welcome them almost, you know, especially if they're using town facility, then we know they're coming. If they're using the high school facilities, obviously we don't have that heads up.
Well, maybe that's even something as committee members that we could even reach out to some of the schools, the teams, minor ball, because as you say, the hospitality industry, you know, fantastic. The restaurants probably, Peace River Brewery, but then even the other businesses in town, it's like, hey, maybe I'll have a supplement special. Maybe the drugstore is gonna do something, maybe a clothing store. So if they see it on your page, they can also, even if they wanna offer some specials and try to get more foot traffic into their store as well and things. So, yeah.
We can definitely pass that on. I know that the tournament package idea is not dead. It's still being worked on internally. And one other thing that is being worked on our webpage right now, we do have the community calendar, but it's kind of all, everything looks the same because it's all posted in one category. We are working with our website provider to create specific categories within that calendar that will also be color coded, so that if someone is going and seeing what's coming up there, tournaments is one of the categories that will be, I think, pulled out of that. So we're moving in that right direction. Maybe not as fast as we'd like, but it's trending in that direction. We can certainly give that feedback to community services and to communications and see what they can do with it.
We can keep our ears open as well and let you know about that too. So definitely benefit to the community and we see it, so. All right, business information process programs. Anything on that?
I don't think we have anything that we haven't already discussed.
I think so. We're good on that. Okay, so then we've just got the information of the labor market updates. If anybody wants to take a browse on that. Look at the labor markets, the Peace River area, April 2025 posting by location and industry, Peace River postings by occupation category, Peace River job seekers occupation, and the Peace River posting by employer's name.
Just wanted to point out, so we do have the business walks, that's coming up, so the dates are stated there. I'll be encouraging, as we were discussing, to have the EDC members join in on, the specific dates. So I'll be reaching out to see who's available, for the dates mentioned there. And we'll be including the province as well, and also the chamber and community futures.
And definitely reach out to me for the 17th and 18th, because we have my daughter's grad in the city on the 25th, so. I should be available to help the week before. So. All right, so we can all take a look through the information, and we've already been through our closed session. And the business grant program. The business retention specialist, primary feedback for economic development operations.
That was also closed.
Yeah. Right. Okay, key communication items, anything to discuss?
I think the main thing will be the business grant awards. Once we,
All right, so other than that, I think, are we good to adjourn our meeting at 3:40 this afternoon? And then we've got our next meeting dates already set for the year, so we'll resume in September and we're good to go. Thank you very much for your time today. Great meeting, guys.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks,
you.
everybody. That was awesome. We got lots done. Thanks.
Oh, we have to make a motion.
Sorry, I'm so pardon me. So make a motion to close our meeting today at 3:40. All right. Thank you. And yes, it was very productive, wasn't it, Shelley?
All right. Did someone make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right.
All in favor?
All in favor, aye, sorry.
Just wait for